Hey all, it's me, your guy, back at it again with another video. So today I'm thinking about the dungeons in Xenosaga 1. I talked at length the other day about Final Fantasy 1 and how dungeon design is designed to kind of like engage the player, and it's designed to kind of like make the player kind of think about it and like get to know it and become familiar with it. Xenosaga 1, interestingly, being a very story focused game, follows a very similar philosophy. Now, I've heard this is a pattern the entire way through the game. I'm kind of playing it for the first time. You are on various ships throughout the game, and through wandering around the ship and talking to people, you build up this understanding of the world and you build up this understanding of the characters. And it's obvious, like it was obvious to me when I was playing it, that like everything that I was learning, the characters I was talking to, the information that I was getting, all of the different like elements that like are shown to you, like turning on the hologram and closing the shutter doors, were going to be useful as soon as something bad happened on the ship. Like, it goes as far as you're talking to the two soldiers and you're like, oh yeah, when the Gnosis attack, this is going to be useful, you're going to be able to run away from them. And I was like, yeah, you're all going to die. That's definitely going to be a thing. And then sure enough, like 20 minutes later, it's almost like it kind of it's a tutorial in its own kind of way. Like, it's kind of meta aware. It's like, oh yeah, you the player. Well, you're relaxed right now. You can go around. You can explore the ship at your own leisure and get to know it. But shit's gonna hit the fan eventually, and you better be ready. So, yeah, Xenosaga 1. And when you're in that dungeon at the start of the game, it wants you to engage with and get to know like the different elements of the ship. How does it move? What buttons do what? Um, how do you run away from enemies? Like, how can you use your environment to slow down the people that are pursuing you and kind of like get an advantage on them? Even like the tutorial at the very beginning of the game talks about walking and like wandering around undetected. Like, the game provides you with like innumerable ways of interacting with the environment around you, which is actually super cool. And it sits at odds kind of like with this idea of kind of like a Final Fantasy 4 esque one shot pot kind of approach to dungeon design. Like, you in Final Fantasy 4, as I talked about before, you wander into a dungeon, and the dungeons are very much, even though they've got branching pathways, they've got treasure chests that you can pick up. The dungeons are designed to be clearable in an hour, kind of 40 minutes, 30 minutes, or whatever. The longest ones are like not even really that long, like the Tower of Babel. And they're simple. Like, it's like the floors are really clear, well designed, often quite symmetrical. And you don't even have to go around and pick up all the treasure. As soon as you find the stairs, you can move on. Like, the game is very streamlined and straightforward, and like, dare say, like even linear kind of in its approach to design. But that's all there to facilitate the kind of like the forward pushing momentum nature of the story. Xenosaga, interestingly, it's got this forward pushing momentum in its story and its world building, but it also wants you to slow down. It wants you to take your time and engage and become familiar with the aspects of the world around you. It wants you to get to know the world and the characters through the progression of the story, but it also wants you to get to know the layout of the dungeon, the layout of the world, like how all of these things work. It's a much broader experience. It's made a very active decision to make its world something that the player is required to engage with on a deeper level, and they really fucking are. Like, when the Gnosis finally do attack, it's hard as balls. The fights are tough. They do like a ludicrous amount of damage, even if you're after going around and picking up loads of items. I was playing it downstairs. Was relatively distracted, so maybe it's not the best kind of point of reference. But like, I used up nearly all of my healing items, and I was like in this little bedroom, and there's hallways of enemies the entire way around the ship. The maps on the walls after you fight the first boss are on the fritz, and you can't even use them to guide your way around anymore. There's no map button. You have to go up to these panels on the wall, and they tell you where you are, and you use that to guide your way around. You have to remember the layout of the ship after the alien attack, and best navigate that so that you don't die. I'm a big fan of how intuitive the design is as well. It feels like you've got like full authority and like you're the only person ever who's stepped into this world and you're the only person who's getting to know it. And like you're the only person who's ever going to play this game. But then like you look at videos of people playing the exact same sections that you played through and everybody kind of does the same thing. And like that is just like top like direction. Like the ship is incredibly open plan, but the developer knows logically that like you are going to engage with this, you're going to engage with this. Like it's just like the logical like there must have been extensive playtesting to achieve that sort of kind of like psychological manipulation in the way that the game is designed and the way the player is expected to engage. Like it's as much an exercise in psychology as it is an exercise in game design in a lot of ways. Like the game design team have been able to predict the exact way that the player is going to engage with the world without it feeling invasive, which is hugely impressive. And like it's a similar achievement to Final Fantasy IV in a way. Like Final Fantasy IV knows that like you're gonna go out onto the map at the beginning of the game after you get Kane in your party and you watch the title, like the prelude crawl go down across the screen. It knows that you're going to run into a couple of encounters and you're going to discover that you're able to steamroll through them. It knows that you're going to be like, yeah, this is great, but I'm going to move on because obviously I'm wasting my time here because you're not getting much XP. You're killing enemies in one hit. They're not able to damage you, and you wind up in the dungeon. The game design is built around the idea that like you're going to skip through all of that, go through it really quickly, and you're going to go into the dungeon and you're going to pick up all of your treasure chests and the enemies in the dungeon aren't going to be any sort of problem to you, and you're going to get to the mist dragon and the mist dragon is going to make the player like stop and go, okay, shit, like this isn't hard, but at the same time, like if I don't stop and think and like kind of measure my actions and not attack now, I'm going to attack in a couple of minutes. Then I'm not going to be able to make it through this game, and that's a philosophy that runs the entire way through the game. Final Fantasy IV has a lot of really straightforward encounters, but it also has a lot of fights that like require you to go, I'm not going to attack this enemy. I'm going to attack the enemy in the back row or whatever, or I'm going to take out this enemy because it's healing this enemy or whatever, like with the Mage Sisters battle. And it informs the player kind of like this, like the kind of thought that's going to be required to get through this adventure. And Xenosaga achieves something similarly brilliant. It puts you in a world and it gives you like this kind of playground tutorial area that encourages you to get to know it before shit hits the fan. And then when shit does hit the fan, like you're able to deal with it. And the player, in one movement, is made aware of exactly what they need to do to get through Xenosaga. It's this like perfect vertical slice. The first 4 hours of Xenosaga, doing your tutorial mission, wandering around the ship, going through the ship as a dungeon after the enemies take over, is this perfect kind of like cut into the game that informs the player what they're in store for in terms of the gameplay. And then they can focus on the story. They can focus on the world building and not worry about any of that because they kind of know like, well, okay, if I'm going to play Xenosaga, I've got to engage in this way and I've got to engage in this way. And now I can relax and I can just let this thing unfold in front of me, and that is beautiful. It's psychological game design. It's a game design that's about the player and it's about the experience, and that's just unbelievable. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I'm trying to do a little bit of this every single day. Like I know this video isn't particularly formatted or edited, but it's just trying to get used to like talking through a topic in front of the camera. And if you stuck around until this point, I'm really grateful, and I hope that you got something out of it. And consider liking and subscribing, or dropping a comment, or any kind of feedback if you feel so inspired. Thank you so much, and I hope to talk to you all again soon.